Hey guys, we're here for episode 13 of the e-commerce opportunity, and I'm joined by Emily. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm super excited for you to be here. Do you mind starting with kind of what you're currently working on?
Sure. So I am the co-founder of Travel Cat, and we are the number one cat travel gear brand in the world. I started the company with my partner, who is also my husband, and we started in 2017. And inspired by becoming cat people on a whim ourselves, we rescued a kitten that somebody found in their backyard. Never planned on becoming cat parents and had never had cats before, but fell in love. And we realized there was a big gap in the market for brands that really truly focus on cats, and also that they get a really bad rap. I'm sure people understand what I'm saying. In terms of, oh, cats are easy, they're lazy, you don't need to do anything with them. But really, for cats to live happy and healthy lives, they should have stimulation, they should have enrichment. And so taking your cats safely outside is a great way to do that. So our product we're most known for is the Fat Cat backpack, which holds up to 25 pounds of cat. And we also have pretty much all the gear you need to go out. So cat harnesses, travel litter boxes, travel beds, and we're really, really focused on serving the cat market. So since we started in 2017, we've always been profitable since the start. I like to share that. I think that's important. And we're now doing seven figures, and we've been growing over 50% each year.
Congrats, that is so awesome. What do you think's allowed you guys to grow by 50% in such a short time to seven figures? Like, what's contributed to that success?
Well, I do think because of our focus purely on serving cat people, even when there seem to be opportunities of, oh, well, you can also put dogs in there, right? And, some people do. We've had dogs and chickens and rabbits, but, because we've chosen just to focus on cats and cat people, we've really gotten to know our market, understand our market, and really what I think is the differentiator is really building relationships with our customers, as we lovingly call them, and taking feedback from them about what products they want to see, what changes they want to see in the products we have, and all of the content that you see on our social channels, on our website. It all comes from our customers, so it's all user generated content. And I think just having that really strong brand has enabled us to really dominate this market and establish a name for ourselves. So I think that mix of community, but also we have a really, really solid paid marketing team as well. And that's really more what my husband specializes in, and my partner, whereas I specialize in the owned channels and the community marketing, customer service, that side of things.
Got it. So you speak my language. I like that.
Yes, yes, definitely. Which is why I love your podcast, and I'm a huge fan. And I also felt like there's kind of a gap in the market for good e-commerce direct-to-consumer podcasts. So I've heard all the episodes and love what you're doing, and your tweets. I actually implemented one of your tweets the other day. You posted a segment of the Apple users because Klaviyo had the Apple user kind of hiccup, and I copied that segment and I added it to my emails that have been going out. So I really appreciate all those tips.
Awesome. No, I love to hear that and excited for you to be here. I have to ask, what's it been like working with your business partner who's your husband? Like, what's that dynamic like?
Yeah, so I think it's a big part of our success. It's definitely a challenge, but he and I have. He actually never has had a quote unquote real job, so he's always been an entrepreneur since graduation and even before then. And for myself, I had a couple normal 9 to 5 jobs before starting my own business. So I have other businesses as well. So, this is our first truly joint venture, and I think our skill sets are just so complementary in terms of what we each focus on. And it's interesting. I had somebody else during a podcast ask me, "What are your titles?" And I said, "I don't know." But we know, we don't focus on that kind of stuff, but we know, our lanes and stay in them. And so it's been a real joy. And I always say it's no coincidence that this is our most successful business, is the first one that we've truly done together.
That's awesome. So how do you guys turn off like work mode, right? Like I feel like for me, it's hard for me to turn off work mode and my wife doesn't do anything that I do. How do you guys turn off work mode or are you guys always on?
It's a mix. I think we have our, of course, like busier times and go times where, and I think we have a good understanding of those times. So, I think the best thing to do is sort of set expectations so you're not trying to get attention from each other or get alone time when the other person wants the opposite. I think that's where the conflict arises. And we also have done a good job more recently over the last year or so where we've set phone-free time periods. So sometimes it's based on the activity. So dining table, phone-free time. So no phones at the table, out of sight, totally out of mind. So we've tried to get slower at eating as well, so we can extend that time, which is hard. Mindful eating, and also when we go on walks. So we have our phones with us, but no phones on walks. And we also chose Sunday morning before noon, no phones, which doesn't mean we have to be doing stuff together and talking to each other for that time period, but we just know it's a time where if you go to engage, if we want to talk to each other, that we won't be competing with phones. So that sort of thing has helped.
That's awesome. And I know offline you talked to me about like the fact that you guys, it sounds like it has like an agency or kind of an agency business model of sorts. And it sounded pretty interesting from how you described it. Can you walk me through like what that looks like and how you split your time even between the two?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so we have our own, Travel Cat is our own brand that we started from scratch, and then we do also do digital e-commerce marketing for other brands that have a really solid start. So we're working with brands that are usually doing like 50K plus a month and trying to like immensely grow their growth and picking companies that are have not really done anything that we're really good at, so we can blow it out of the water. So the paid marketing, maybe they haven't done any email marketing. Now we're starting to get our clients onto SMS marketing because that's been really successful for us for Travel Cat. So we basically take everything, that we've done for ourselves and do that for these other businesses that are struggling to, haven't really filled those gaps, but have something else going that's really amazing, like a super strong brand or great organic sales on their own, and kind of acting as their e-commerce marketing partner. And sometimes we have ownership in those companies to an extent. Other times commission deals, like each structure is a bit different. So we really take an approach of quality and finding finding brands that are really going to fit well into our ecosystem and really benefit from working with us versus, we want to get this number of clients every year or that sort of thing. And every client we have has stayed with us since we started. So that's the type of, the relationship we're trying to build.
Nice. And how do you go about like acquiring clients? And do you think the fact that you, eat your own, let's say cat food, because you have your business helps in terms of getting people to want to work with you? Like, can you walk me through like how you acquire clients and like what that conversation looks like?
Yeah, it's really word of mouth. It's like every client has sort of led us to the next client. And we do have a partner in some of who works with us who has brought us clients as well. He's like super well connected and just knows a ton of people. So it's sort of those two things, which I know you talk a lot about agency stuff as well, on Twitter and whatnot. And yeah, I do think sometimes I think this is how you feel as well. I mean, personal branding. I do a lot of networking and personal branding, that sort of thing. My husband does none of that. We're literally complete opposites. But we don't even have a really great website or pitch deck or anything. It's always been people coming to us through, referrals and recommendations where they don't need that. They trust who we're coming from, and then once they get to know us and we talk to them and we meet with them, they're good to go. So I always recommend people not obsess over that kind of front end stuff and just really obsess over doing a really good job for your clients.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So you have the ecom business, then you have like an agency. Do you have the same team across both? Like it's you and your husband obviously across both. Do you have like a shared team and like how big does your team look like? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's not anything super, it's different for each client, right? Because we sort of build very custom partnerships. we definitely, like, there's some clients that I don't actually touch. My husband touches, he is involved with all of them. He's really like the head of the digital marketing side of things. And then we do have a third partner we work with who he's involved in all the clients as well. And then we have other people on our team who work on a contract basis. And so we bring them into different partnerships depending on what's needed. So we definitely work on a lean model and a model of getting to understand the pieces of the puzzles ourselves that we want to do. So like SMS, right? We want to have a good understanding of SMS and what's working and best practices, but then eventually, bringing in an expert to then execute it. So we're not doing the nitty gritty of the sort of execution, but can have the understanding to manage it. So that's sort of the approach that we've taken with really dominating all of these different, it's hard to be an expert in everything, right? So we sort of do it with our own brand, and then usually bring on help to fully execute with the partners that we work on.
Nice. And like, what does that conversation look like internally between you, your husband, and the third partner of like, hey, in this brand, we want to charge a retainer. In this brand, we want to do a rev share. And with this brand, we want to take equity and reduce a retainer. Like how do you think about like on a per brand basis? Like, do you have criteria of like, they have to be doing this much revenue or more or less to take equity? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think we have the luxury because we are working with, a limited number of people that there's really no, oh, this is what we do for everyone, right? It's a sort of, we're seeing how the business is growing, the direction it's going, what their needs are, and really gaining the trust and killing it for them so that when we come to them and say, hey, we're going to execute SMS marketing for you now. You guys have to do this. So like, okay. And we're like, this is the bill, this is what it's going to cost. That's really like the level of trust, because they know that everything that we're doing is, for their benefit, for the growth. And we've always executed well. So there's no one sort of structure. It's all sort of as we get to know the client as we both grow together.
Yeah, it makes sense. So in terms of like your ecom brand, like have you found any clients that you worked with that have been like strategic or complementary, where you guys could do like cross promotion and kind of share assets and things of that sort, or not? You kind of keep the two like church and state?
I would say it's mostly church and state. There's one brand where there's a little bit of crossover, but they are actually pretty different. So we're not, in terms of categories, so we're not focused on one particular category. We're more focused on the stage they're in and what needs they have. So we have apparel, athletic gear, we have food, we do have another pet brand, we have a fitness accessory. Yeah, so it's a pretty broad range. So it's more about, the services that we can bring and help versus, being able to share across channels.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you. In terms of like your own personal learning, like how did you learn email? How did you learn community? How did you learn personal branding? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, so I've always been in the digital marketing, community space, actually events space as well. So my other business that I've run for almost 12 years now creates career events and programming for diverse early career professionals to connect them with employers. And so that's been a majority of what I've spent my career doing, is building community and creating really great content and programming. And so I've taken that and sort of translated it into a very different world, cats and cat people. And so, yeah, a lot of it's learning by doing. I studied fine arts, guys. So it definitely did not come from the undergrad degree. And and for me, because this is a bit of a new world for me, and the direct to consumer, the e-commerce world, and I've been doing it since, as mentioned, actually end of 2017. So I feel fairly new. So for me, this has been an exciting period in my career where I feel very, like the student again and learning. And so that's why I've really enjoyed, listening and learning to people like you. I think I originally found you in a Clubhouse event maybe a month or two ago, and then followed you to Twitter, and then started my own direct to consumer Twitter list that has you and maybe up to like 40 other people on it now. and I'm learning from them, and I follow them to their Slack groups, and I go to the Slack groups and I follow, see what they're doing in there. And then I hear your podcast and I pitch myself for it and get to meet you, so I'm always been a networker. And so I'm really practicing what I preach, getting into this new industry or new world in a sense, but also bringing over, my 10 plus years of experience from a different industry and sort of applying it to this new category.
That's awesome. Like, it's crazy how much like being able to learn and like learning to learn is like a skill set in and of itself. So
Yeah,
that's cool. In terms of tools, like on the e-commerce brand, in terms of tools on the agency, what are some tools that are helping you facilitate process, workflow, this, that, or the other?
yeah. So we're on Shopify. We had a couple of brands not on Shopify, and we switched them all to Shopify. So all regular Shopify, Klaviyo for everyone. In terms of management, we're in GChat all day and Google Docs and that sort of thing, but we do also use Asana. So my partner and I are really good at Asana-ing out tasks. We don't use it as much for ourselves, but he and I actually are big on this notebook. Oh my gosh, the productivity notebook it's called, I believe. It's one of those notebooks where it gives you a list for the week, like your top 30 tasks of the week, and then each day your top 5. And so he and I, like every Sunday, we do our books. That's what we say. We do our books and we collaborate and make sure we're sort of on the same page with shared goals. But we also use Asana for all of our other colleagues and consultants that we work with and that sort of thing. So we could definitely get better in that space. It's a little bit of a mishmash, but those are some of the big tools.
Awesome. And what are you using? I know you said you're kind of venturing into SMS. Are you using Klaviyo for SMS, or what tool are you using there?
Oh man, this was a struggle for me in choosing. So we've been on a journey. So we started with Emotive, and really just because they pitched the crap out of us. And I was like, all right, whatever, let's try it. And I did no research into other platforms. And then this year, a big part of my goal this year is to really push the owned marketing channels and the community. And so we launched with Yotpo for a loyalty and referral program. And so they pitched us, do SMS with us and we'll do no platform fee. So we were like, heck yeah, and the same rates for, SMS and MMS. So we ended up switching to SMS Bump because of that. And it's been good, but we do plan to switch to Attentive in the near future. And we've got our clients on Attentive because of I'm still sort of on the fence about this, but from my latest research, it seems like they have the best in terms of compliance. But I did also talk to people like Klaviyo, and I know they're really pushing it, but it's a little bit more early. So who knows? Maybe I'll end up trying basically every platform next time we speak, or in a year or so. I'll have tried them all, but yeah. It's interesting because with email, it's like, oh, what do you use? Klaviyo. Everybody, Klaviyo. Klaviyo is the best, like across the board. But with SMS, it's not like that. The SMS, people are fans of, also Postscript. I didn't even mention that one, so I feel like it's a much more scattered market in terms of who's owning SMS because it's more new. I don't know. What do you think? What do you hear or feel like is word on the street?
Yeah, no, I agree that it's definitely fragmented, right? Like Attentive has raised a lot of money. They've been around for a while. I think maybe we have like 1 or 2 clients on them. We didn't initially ever consider them because they always wanted to like have like a white glove solution where they wanted to run it themselves. And us as an agency, like we really like to be involved in the process and we want to own it. So that's why we didn't use them. Our team mainly uses Postscript right now. We really like them. And then we are, kind of testing some stuff on Klaviyo. I like Postscript, don't get me wrong. I like Klaviyo because the fact is, like, for an agency, I want to have everything under one roof. Like if we're doing email there, I want to do SMS there. I don't want my team logging into Emotive, Postscript, Retention Rocket, this, that, and the other. I think people overlook like just those context changes of having to log into a new password and remember the login and remember who's where. Sometimes you forget about it, but if it's all under there, like even Klaviyo forms, like they're not as great as like a Privy or a Just but it's easy. And if it's there and it's easy, you're going to work on it, which I think is the important part. So yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, and so that was one of the things I brought up to Attentive, but they are no longer white glove. So it is now like fully self-service. You could do whatever you want, but you can also get them to do stuff for you. So you could say, build me this landing page with these assets, and they'll do it. So we'll see how it goes. But I agree with you on Klaviyo. I think I will probably definitely try out Klaviyo at some point in the future, but maybe just give them more time to sort of work out the kinks and get up to speed with where some of these other services are at.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think they definitely have the funding that's going to happen. It's just a matter of, when.
Yeah.
The last thing I really want to talk to you about, it sounded like you guys were leveraging a third-party 3PL, and then you guys kind of opened your own warehouse. Can we talk through that?
Yes, I love to talk about this because having the 3PL that we had was the biggest nightmare of my e-commerce life, and it caused the most stress. It was I would say, biggest mistake, if you talk about mistakes or grouping of mistakes. So once we could no longer fulfill orders, ourselves. So we were lucky that when we started, we had access to this kind of shared workspace we could use for fulfilling. But when we grew out of that, we started looking into 3PLs, and ultimately went with the one that had the best salesperson, amongst other things. But they got back to us the quickest, gave us the best answers, and they did also have a warehouse in Brooklyn, and we're based in New York. So we thought, okay, this will be great. We can go and visit it, get it set up. We wanted, we like that idea of being able to visit and see it. But there were problems right from the beginning, including when we arrived the first day at that warehouse, where they knew we had hundreds of back orders and had made it seem like we'd be able to get through them in a couple of days. There was one person at this warehouse. We walk in and felt like we were on a hidden camera show. It was so shocking. And we should have, at that point, when I say mistake, we should have said, wow, this is an enormous red flag. We should just cut it. But we let them pay to truck our stuff to their other warehouse in Texas. And we just had tons of problems with them, from QAing, getting things wrong, double shipping orders. I mean, the list goes on. But it's so hard to switch from a 3PL. I mean, they have all of your stuff. And so when we were finally really committed to switching, that was February of 2020. So we were at the last big trade show that we will probably ever go to down in Florida, a big wholesale pet trade show, talking to other vendors, and then COVID happened. And we thought, okay, now we'll put it on hold again. And then even more nightmares happened, some due to COVID, but also just because this was not a good company. And so ultimately, we thought, you know what? There's literally no way we could do a worse job than this company had been doing. And so we had met somebody. Actually, I met someone through networking in a Slack group with other Shopify owners, met somebody who had worked at Amazon and had warehouse experience. And he gave us a lot of free advice, but then we also hired him as a consultant to help us open a space in Queens, which is where we live. And we ended up hiring a full-time warehouse manager and a part-time person who also now works with us on digital projects. She's a very unique person. And that was the best choice we ever made. Owning the fulfillment experience is so huge. Being able to know what's going on with your orders, when things are going bad, when things are going well, being able to commit to when you can get orders out. I mean, all of those things it's been great. And so the learning experience from that I'd share with other people is just really get to know and I'm not hating on 3PLs in general, but ask really good questions and make sure they specialize in the type of company you have, because there's so many 3PLs out there. Do you have a lot of SKUs? Do you have one SKU? Do you have a complex QAing process or not? Is it breakable? Is it, food? It's just find a 3PL if you're going to that really specializes in what type of company you have. Otherwise, there could be lots of pain points to deal with.
Wow.
And I would say that having your own warehouse is not as maybe overwhelming as it may seem, because I was very overwhelmed and sort of against it until I had this person to sort of guide us through the process of setting it up. And now we're really glad we did it. And it's cost effective. It works for us financially. And the more we grow, the better it works for us financially, the more orders we're putting out. And yeah, we've served over 40,000 customers at this point. So, we're doing a good amount of volume.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry to hear about your initial experience, but it sounds like it all worked out in the end, and
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that. In terms of people that want to connect with you, learn about you, ask you any questions, what's the best place for someone to connect with you?
Sure. Well, I'm Emily Miethner, pretty much everywhere on the internet. So Emily, and then the last name is Miethner. So you can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Twitter, and we are Travel Cat Shop on social media handles as well, if you want to check out our site and our products.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.